What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my refined review and builds guide for Legendary Chrom, Bramimond and Duo Idunn. Legendary Chrom and Bramimond also got their remixes and I'll be taking a look at Legendary Chrom first. So his weapon did give him +3 attack, effective damage against armor units and also the debuff neutralization, and now it's a lot easier to get. He also debuffs the opponent for -6 attack and defense debuff in the combat, and he can get extra attack, speed, defense and resistance depending on the total visible status effects present on him, be it positive or negative status effects multiplied by 2 and then added by 4. So interestingly, the isolation given by his 2 change fate actually gives him extra stats when you use that and you get the isolation from it. And bonus doubler also goes well with this as it is going to be giving him even more stats. So giving him extra status from like Aether or any of those support units is going to be working out really great. Garrick is another example who is from this weapon refined batch itself. So any kind of extra status effects are going to be making Legendary Chrom have even more stats and basically function as a stat ball. And then he also gets guaranteed follow-up attack from his weapon refine and also gets 30% damage reduction on foe's first attack. So guaranteed follow-up attack is something that he needed because he's not fast enough to naturally double a lot of the opponents, and even though he can speed stack even with this weapon refine, guaranteed follow-up attack is really good for a slow unit like him. But a lot of times the hardy fighter armor units who do have the partial on follow-up are going to be able to just eat up this kind of guaranteed follow-up attack and prevent him from doubling. So that is going to be a annoying thing, but still he's going to be a lot better unit now with this weapon refine. And he also gets a remix to his 2 change fate, which is basically a reposition giving another action, and it grants him +6 attack and defense buff and also bonus doubler and isolation after its use. And like I said before, be it positive or negative, any kind of visible status is good status on Chrom. Even if he gets affected by like Embla's Severance, he's going to be having the negative status effects which actually help him get even more stats in the combat. So that is really good for just stat stacking, and overall this is a pretty decent weapon refine and remix. And Legendary Chrom was already pretty nice for arena usage because of his positional skill, as we're not really allowed using reposition or drawback as those are low scoring assist skills, and mostly rally plus skills are used. So having a positional assist was always really nice, and now it's even better. So arena is basically going to be the main usage of Legendary Chrom, and maybe in Summoner Duels if you do want to use him, because you can just get another action out of his 2 change fate. And he can get a lot of stats, but still, I don't really think that he's too insane of a nuke, and obviously someone like Duo Chrom is going to be a better nuke as it is. If you're going to be building him up on a budget, then you can simply give him attack defense form 3, and that's going to be working out fine as you can pretty much just get the extra stats. And you can also run bonus doubler as the sacred seal because it is going to be stacking up with the bonus doubler status effect from his 2 change fate. So that is really helpful, and he does get blue feud as his remix skill, which is completely random honestly. It doesn't really help him all that much, and I wish it was red feud or colorless feud to get rid of Fallen Marias pretty much. But blue feud is pretty much there, and I guess it could be used on a budget because Rouse skill is not really all that good anymore, and it's kind of redundant with his 2 change fate anyways. So that's why you could just run it. But if you're going to be giving him more skills, then attack defense ideal 4 is something you could give to him, and speed defense tempo from the divine codes is also really good, and you can run time pulse 4 or time pulse and just run Deadeye. So because he doesn't have -1 special cooldown like Duo Chrom, giving him time pulse is really helpful so that he can trigger Deadeye in a single round of combat. Of course, if the enemy has got null follow-up or some kind of hardy fighter, then you're not really going to be able to double them, as they're just going to be stopping your auto double and you don't trigger Deadeye, and that's why Duo Chrom is so good for the reason he is. But still, if you just want to run a Deadeye Legendary Chrom, then this is the way of doing things. You can also pierce through the damage reduction by using Special Spiral 4 actually, and whenever attack defense finish 4 comes out, that is going to be a really good skill to be run in his slot A because he can get even more true damage and also get the healing. But until then, I guess you can just run attack defense ideal. So you can run Ruptured Sky with Special Spiral 4 to basically pierce through the damage reduction consistently. And Attack Smoke 4 is also going to be an option for the follow-up negation effect, which you can try and get. And that is going to be another visible status that you can get. So it does give him more stats basically, and it does work well with the bonus doubler that is built in his 2 change fate. So it is going to be a good skill to be run on the slot C, and a lot of people did run speedy Legendary Chroms a lot of times, like before the speed creep metagame. And if you're still one of those people, then you can definitely run a build from Duo Shamir and run Brash Assault 4 and Remote Sparrow and basically get the damage reflection and stack up the damage reduction with his Weapon Refine and make him pretty bulky, and then trigger Deadeye using Time Pulse 4 and Deadeye in the special. So that can be worked out, and if you just want to use another slot B option like Brash Assault 4, then it is going to be an option with a remote skill like Remote Sparrow or even Remote Mirror if you do have access to it. But we do get Remote Sparrow along with Brash Assault 4, so that's why you could just run it from Duo Shamir. And in Arena, I still think that just speed stacking on him is going to be helping you, because at least you're going to be getting past a lot of the units with follow-up negation effects, and you're going to be faster than them. And you also close in the gap between a lot of the damage reduction skills that are speed based by stacking up the speed, and physical null follow-up is going to be helpful in piercing through the damage reduction and just cutting it by half. So it could be run, and it's also a 300 SP slot B skill. So by running all of the 300 SP passives, you can basically score at his max, and attack speed Oath 4 is also a pretty good skill. I would say that speed resistance Oath is probably the most optimal for him whenever that happens, but yeah, until then this could be run. And Otter's buff is another visible status that you get out of the Oath 4 skill. So not only you teleport and you can use 2 change fate, but you can also get even more stats out of his Weapon Refine, because keep in mind that more visible status, any kind of visible status, do equate to more stats, so that is going to be really helpful. Bramimond, in my opinion, won this month's Weapon Refine batch because Bramimond gets an amazing Weapon Refine and remix. So Bramimond had Void Tome, which did give them +3 attack and guaranteed follow-up attack, and now with this Weapon Refine they can get +9 attack, defense and resistance, and also +4 speed in the combat. Now here comes the lore intensive part. So basically this Weapon Refine tries to follow the lore of the fact that Bramimond has experimented so much with the dark magic that any kind of human personality is completely erased from them. So they pretty much mimic whatever the whoever they're talking to or whoever they're facing in this case. So if the foe has got -1 special cooldown in their weapon, Bramimond basically gets -1 special cooldown right before their first attack in the combat. And it's amazing game design, and I love it so much as a FE7 fan. So it is going to be helpful in Bramimond having a -1 special cooldown against pretty much most of the modern units, as most of them do have -1 special cooldowns. So Bramimond is also able to get that, except for someone like Brave Dimitri, who doesn't really have it. So there are definitely going to be exceptions to this, but against most modern units, Bramimond is going to be able to get that -1 special cooldown. And Bramimond also gets true damage based on 15% of foe's attack, because this is like a true damage Ruptured Sky that Bramimond has got. So that's why it's really good. And then they can get damage reduction based on higher of foe's visible defense or resistance, and this can go all the way up to 50% damage reduction. So this is percentage based damage reduction, and this can definitely stack with Remote Mirror if you do try and run that. So yeah, true damage, damage reduction, -1 special cooldown is all really fantastic in Bramimond's Weapon Refine. And they also get Impenetrable Void as the remix skill, so this did have Omnifeud built in, which was the first time we saw a feud effect on any kind of unit. So Bramimond is the OG feud unit, and Bramimond also gets -5 to all of these stats as the debuff on the foe in the combat, so this is even better with all of these stats that they can get with their Weapon Refine. And then finally they can have any kind of percentage based damage reduction non-special skills by 50%. So this does apply on Vital Astra, Dragon Wall, Close Call 4, any of those damage reduction skills, but it doesn't really apply on stuff like Godlike Reflexes, Aegis, Sacred Cowl, and any of those specials which, are not, pierceable by Deadeye, Lethality, and stuff like that. So basically it is going to be halving the non-special damage reduction skills, which is really good, and this can actually stack up with Magical Null Follow-Up multiplicatively, so you can actually shred like 75% of their damage reduction completely per hit. And this also does not include triggering your special like Special Spiral 4, because you can just cut through the damage reduction per hit. So overall I would say that Bramimond is again a very good Aether Raids defense unit, and has gone back into the metagame where they are a legitimate threat now because of the remix and refine. So I'm definitely going to be using Bramimond quite a lot on my Aether Raids defense, and at high investment Bramimond is definitely going to be a really big threat in the Dark Season, especially with Bridal Catria teams, where Bramimond can just get the triangle attack and get the brave hit, and actually survive the counter attack of the enemy because of the damage reduction that they can get, and then just quad attack. So that is going to be really, really annoying and really scary for a lot of Omni tanking people, and also any kind of tanking in general, honestly, because it's gonna be pretty hard to tank Bramimond with the correct conditions and at like high investment pretty much. So I'm gonna be liking Bramimond's remix the most out of the refines that we've got this month, and I would say this is definitely the winner of the refinery batch and as well as the remix batch basically that we've got. So Bramimond could be built up on a budget with just the default skills. Attack Risk Tempo is actually their remix skill, so you can just run that, and it can help on a Bridal Catcher team where you can just run Glimmer, and because of the tempo skill you can actually trigger this on your Brave attack against any kind of modern threat. So it could be used, and then you can also run Sturdy Impact from the Divine Codes, as it does give you more defense, which is always helpful without having any kind of recoil damage. So Sturdy Impact could be run from Divine Codes, and that is something that a lot of people do run. And you can even run Guard in the slot B so that you can be even more annoying for many of the threats. And speaking of Guard, you can actually run Guard 4 with Remote Mirror. So Remote Mirror's damage reduction does stack up with the damage reduction of Void Tome, which is going to be making Bramimond really bulky, and Guard 4 pretty much makes it so that you can get the attack debuff on the opponent and also get even more damage reduction to stack it up. So you can use Guard 3, but I just showed Guard 4 for like the max investment purpose, just so that you can see what Bramimond can look like at this kind of max investment. At max investment, you can even run Brash Assault 4 for the damage reflection, which again ties in with the mimicking and the mirror theme really well with Bramimond, and also for the damage reflection on the follow-up attack. And then finally, at max investment, I would say that Magical Null follow-up is going to be the best lobby skill that you can run on Bramimond. Now, even though Bramimond is not the fastest unit, Magical Null follow-up is mainly used for the damage reduction shredding, because it also cuts through the damage reduction in half, just like Impenetrable Void. And both of these skills actually stack up multiplicatively, so you can actually have 75% damage reduction shredding per attack, which is going to be really scary for a lot of Lucias and a lot of damage reduction tanks. So that's why I would say that at max investment, this is going to be the best build, and Remote Mirror is going to be giving even more survivability and longevity to Bramimond, along with the damage reduction that they get with the Void Tome. Duo Idunn also gets a weapon refine to her Zephyr Breath, and it did have +2 resistance, effective damage against armors, debuff neutralization, and also follow-up negation built in. And now after the weapon refine, Idunn can debuff the opponent for -10 attack and -8 speed, defense, and resistance in the combat. She also gets flat 5 damage reduction on foe's first attack, and this actually includes the brave attacks as well, as the description says. So the flat damage reduction is actually pretty amazing with the Dragon Wall, because it is going to be applied after the Dragon Wall damage reduction is used. So basically whatever damage is going to be left, it is going to be getting applied with this flat damage reduction, and having any kind of flat damage reduction is always really good for tanking. So this is really helpful, and then she can heal up 7 HP after the combat, and she's got Dragon Wall built in her weapon refine. So that is really amazing because it frees up her slot B skill from running Dragon Wall and can actually run some other skills like Hardy Fighter or Vengeful Fighter, and both of them are going to be really good slot B options. So I would say that, Duo Idunn has definitely become a much better far safe tank and also a near safe tank after this weapon refine. Definitely not going to be as insane like a new far savior like Bridal Tiki obviously, but still Duo Idunn is much better, and that flat 5 damage reduction is actually really good with the Dragon Wall damage reduction. So overall a pretty good weapon refine, and now Duo Idunn is a lot more useful. So if you want to run Duo Idunn on a near safe build, then that could also be done, and Vengeful Fighter 3 could be used, but you can also use Vengeful Fighter 4 actually, and that is going to be the ideal slot B skill if you're not running Hardy Fighter on Idunn, I would say, because you get the attack shredding even more with the debuff of Vengeful Fighter. You also get guaranteed follow-up attack and also the breath effect, which is really helpful. So Idunn doesn't really have -1 special cooldown, so that's why you can just run Ignis, and that could work out for a near safe build. Far safe build is also something you can run with Mirror Stance 3, and Armored Flow is a special that you can give on Idunn at high investment, and defense and resistance, both of these boons actually have a super boon in them, so you can just ascend them and actually function as a pretty tanky armor. So that is going to be an option with Vengeful Fighter 4 and the new Armored Flow skill. Even though Idunn doesn't really have -1 special cooldown, Armored Flow is mainly going to be if someone is coming out of the gate with like a pre-charged special, which does happen quite a lot. So there it is going to be getting activated, and it is going to be giving you the damage reduction. And the damage reduction you get from Armored Beacon and Armored Flow is not pierceable by Deadeye, Lethality, Sublime Heaven, or Special Spiral 4, or any of those skills. So it's really good to have for those scenarios where you're going to be facing someone with the tempo effect or some kind of pre-charge special. So definitely helps quite a lot. And then you can run Summoner Duels as build as well with Hardy Fighter and Sacred Cowl. So if you have her, then she can be another really good far save tank that could be used in Summoner Duels S, which does require more save tanks. And even though she's going to be missing out on the follow-up attack, Hardy Fighter and Sacred Cowl is going to be giving you the pre-charge special so that she doesn't die to the pre-charge specials of other units like Deadeye Duo Chrom, for example. So it could be run. Hardy Fighter is a lot more accessible than Armored Flow or Armored Beacon, so it could be run for Summoner Duels S. And the peak Idunn build definitely uses Attack Res Scowl to decharge the enemy specials, and even if they somehow still trigger their special, then Armored Flow is going to be right there. And Vengeful Fighter's Breath effect does help with Armored Flow, and especially if you run Idunn with like Duo Asker to bring down Armored Flow to 2 cooldown. So this is going to be the peak Idunn build that you can run, and the Scowl skill is definitely going to be making really great use out of the resistance of Idunn that she has got, which she already uses for the Dragon Wall damage reduction from her Weapon Refine. And then Idunn can also be run for Aether Raids defense, where she can be a pure tank and just stack up the damage reduction by running Dragon Wall in her slot B. And if in the future we get Dragon Wall 4, which actually gives you automatic follow-up or guaranteed follow-up attack, then that would be the best thing ever, because then Idunn would be really bulky. So the nature of this build is just to be really tanky and be really annoying so that the enemy has a hard time initiating on you. You basically have the Scowl skill to decharge, you have got the Flow skill in case they still trigger any kind of special, and Dragon Wall from her Weapon Refine are going to be stacking up for 64% damage reduction. So that is going to be really useful for being a really bulky Aether Raids defense far save tank. I'll be making refined review and builds guide for the other refines of this batch as well, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure to share this with your friends if they're trying to build up any of these units after their new weapon refines. And if you did enjoy, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps it tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more free videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Duo Chrom's bonus doubler and attack and defense buff against level attack defense. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.